Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters on That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And today we're actually trying out something new and our guinea pig today is actually going to be Grizzly Ironside, aka Jimmy Dunlap. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing pretty good today. How are you, man?
Not too bad. But to fill in the audience, we actually were trying this out on Skype one time, and actually it was Tempting the Tides who told me about Skype. They were like going to stop using it from Microsoft. So, and unfortunately, we still had one more month before they were supposed to get rid of it. So, and then he's directing his cat to get out or something.
No, my German Shepherd's chasing my cat.
Oh no, jeez. I think that explains why the door closed last time. So
Yeah, and the wife's out of town, so I'm watching the pets. So shouldn't be an issue.
hopefully not, but we'll make it work.
Yeah.
So, but long story short, Skype, unfortunately, we did our recording on Skype just to fill in the audience, but and then for some reason it just would not show up. So I don't know what happened, but it's dust in the wind, as the song would say. So, okay. So basically, we're starting over in this case. But I guess since we last talked, what you been up to, Jimmy?
Oh man, I'm getting ready to go into the studio tomorrow and start recording a new album. I'm collaborating with a buddy of mine up here in Murfreesboro. His artist handle is Grunkle Dave, like great uncle, and then Dave. He's a pretty talented multi-instrumentalist, so I'm hoping that I can do some really gnarly stuff. I've got a couple of ideas that I want him to, throw saxophone on maybe. I think that would be pretty cool. And it'd still be a hard rock song. It'd just be a little bit something different. But yeah, we're laying down one of our first songs tomorrow called Courage. Um, and I'm pretty excited for that one. That song is actually my tribute to like bands like Rush and Queen. So it'll be like a good old feel good callback to classic rock with some orchestration in it, a little bit more upbeat than what I normally do, a little bit more major chordy. Other than that, I played a pretty sweet gig last weekend with the Norse and Chunder. The Norse was super heavy, as I expected them to be. Got this cool hat. And Chunder was also really heavy. I have some video on my Facebook if you want to check them out, but they were dressed normal. And I said, where's the Speedos? And they all laughed. They're like, yeah, there's a one night we dressed normal. I'm like, well, okay. But they were all pretty cool guys. I look forward to playing with them again. Got the studio mostly set up. I'm gonna finish, the odds and ends tomorrow, and then hopefully we'll start getting the songs recorded for my next future length or full length album. Um, I'm also 90%, actually 95% finished with a 5-song EP that I'm wanting to put out in the next couple of months too. Just waiting on the masters for that, and then we'll be able to start releasing. I'll release singles one by one, and then the last one I'll just release the EP with it. So that's going to be really cool. I'm really excited for people to hear, better versions of songs that I'd written long ago, and then some new songs. And then Fall of Our Heroes, my new single, drops next week, next Friday. So that's pretty exciting too. So as you can see, I've been pretty busy.
Do tell. And I have to apologize about the whole Chunder thing because I stumbled upon a post. I think the band was called Spasm or something, but the one guy was wearing a Speedo. He was like this big fat white guy. And I thought, like, was that the band he was talking about? So I think, like, is this? And I messaged you, and then you came back. You're like, I don't know what you're referring to.
No, it was Chunder. They're pretty cool guys. They were really fun to play with. Like even the Norse and them, like it was just a really fun night. It was weird because I don't normally like I play heavy for a solo artist, but I don't consider myself metal. I'm more, just straightforward dad rock, divorced dad rock. No shame. I love that shit. And then I played a 45-minute set, and then the Norse came on and fucking killed it with some like Viking metal. They reminded me a lot of Killswitch Engage, but even heavier. Chunder was just insane. They were really heavy too. Like, and that dude he can scream and he has the endurance too. So, like, hopefully one day they'll put out some stuff on streaming, but I got some pretty good quality video on my Facebook if you want to check it out. Steal it and throw it in this podcast. Intercut with what we're talking about if you want to. I always love giving shout outs to people.
Probably something separate, but nonetheless, thanks for the shout outs there too. So
yeah, man. Yeah.
So unfortunately, we only got 2 hours to work with you too, man. Last time we chatted up a good storm. So
yeah.
So unfortunately, we're starting over in this case here too. But so to start over again, old Grizzly, welcome to my podcast here, mate. And the way it's going to work is just want to ask you some questions. Want to get to know the man behind the music as well as who he is as an individual. So, you all ready for this? All right.
Cue the music.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, yeah. All right. So, start with you. I guess, who are you? And how did you become a musician?
All right. Well, I am Jimmy Dunlap. I live in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I will go way back. I've always liked music. My dad had me when he was really young, and he was a musician. So I would always hear him practicing with his band when he was a teenager. Like I said, really young. He was 16. He raised me on like a lot of punk rock and Jimi Hendrix and Kiss. Some grunge, Alice in Chains thrown in there, some Stone Temple Pilots, Chili Peppers. So I always enjoyed listening to music. I was a kid with a big imagination. And for a long time, I didn't know how to put that into effect. 'Cause it's like, what do I do in a small town? I grew up in a small town in North Alabama called Skyline. I shit you not, graduating class at 28. And I did not graduate with that class, but I'll get to that later. I started playing music after I was inspired by a Beatles One commercial back in like 2000, 2001. And it was funny because those commercials used to really get on my nerves because they were interrupting, my anime on Cartoon Network, my episodes of DBZ. And I'm like, I don't care about the Beatles. And then it's like earworm. All of a sudden I'm like, they're not half that bad. And I told my dad, I said, I want to be like that guy. He's like, that's Paul McCartney. I said, I want to be like that guy. I originally wanted to start playing bass because then I became like obsessed with the Beatles and like went on this deep dive. I'm like, man, I want to write music like this. And my dad's a bass player. He's like, let's start you out on guitar first. And, ended up getting me a guitar and my granddad at the time, still my granddad. He's no longer on this physical plane. He's with us in spirit, just not here in body. He started teaching me like some country and bluegrass. He wasn't really a big rock and roll guy, but that was still pretty cool. He taught me the chords and basics on acoustic guitar, some picking techniques. And then, there was these guys that I was going to school with that I grew up with. They were starting a band, and they were wanting to do like a Christian metal band. And they're like, if you want to play with us, you're going to have to listen to something heavier than the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix and Kiss. I'm like, okay. So I started cutting my teeth on Creed because I thought that was heavy at the time. Creed and POD and Nickelback and Puddle of Mud, and that I think that played a huge impact on how I play music today was, the bands that I cut my teeth on back then. And then I got into, Skillet too. I was a pretty big fan of Skillet once upon a time. Still kind of like them. Don't really care for the last two albums, but that's just, me being a diehard old school fan, like early 2000s was their freaking peak. Collide is an amazing album. But I started getting into like Metallica and Pantera and Shadows Fall and Killswitch Engage and eventually Slipknot and Stone Sour. And Stone Sour is still one of my favorite bands to this day and a huge influence. And I started learning how to play metal. And, we practiced a lot as teenagers. We had our own little garage band. We threw on like this Christian metal hybrid concert in this Pentecostal church in Hollywood, Alabama. And that was fun. That was hilarious because people were hooping and hollering and speaking in tongues and doing that whole thing. And, I'm sitting there with my long hair and just headbanging in this church playing like a metal version of Awesome God and some other covers and the original that we had written. And then I joined the Army. Like when I was 18, wasn't really excelling in school, and I wanted to leave Alabama, so I joined the army. And I kind of quit playing music for a while. Then, I would try to collaborate with the boys. They had formed a band called Shotgun, and when I was in town and I would visit, and I think I played like maybe one or two gigs live with them, and I recorded on a few songs with them. And then it just got to where it wasn't working anymore. They moved on and eventually broke up and formed another band with a married couple, and they called themselves Scarlet Rope. And that was probably my favorite band that I've played with. I joined shortly as a bass player. I want to say I played with them for a few months, and then I shipped off to Afghanistan. But while I did play with them, I had a lot of fun. They were sort of like a Breaking Benjamin meets Seven Dust with a chick singer. And they were so good. Like, man, I still wish I could write songs like they did, and I try to. They were huge influences. Like, I can embrace those styles that I love. And while I was in Afghanistan, unfortunately, they broke up, and the boys, I think they did another band that I didn't really get involved with, because by that time I'd started developing unhealthy habits, drinking and whatnot, full blown alcoholism when I got back from Afghanistan. Maybe before too, yeah, definitely before, but it was worse when I got back. And I didn't play music. I quit playing for years. I got back from Afghanistan in 2011, and I don't think I really started considering playing music until like 2016, maybe. My I had divorced and then gotten remarried, not to the same woman, but I remarried like 5 years after my divorce. And she saw these pictures of me in the band, and she's like, you know, we've been together for a year, and I've never heard you play guitar. And her first Christmas present to me was an acoustic guitar, Yamaha. And she's like, I want you to start playing fucking guitar, okay? And I did, and it's like, okay, well, a lot of times passed. The boys, their band had broken up, and they had started families, and were just not really interested in doing the band. So it's like, okay, what am I gonna do? Who am I gonna be? Because I love writing my own music. I started writing songs when I started playing guitar when I was 14, and I started writing songs when I was 15 or 16. Not saying they were any good. Some of them were good. But I would start learning songs and messing it up and make it my own song and mess it around a little bit. One of the first songs I wrote is actually on Spotify. It's on streaming. It's called "A Force to Be Reckoned With." I wrote that when I was like 15 or 16. It sounded a lot different back then. It was more maybe Volume 3 Slipknotty. Now it's more like, it kind of reminds me of 3 Days Grace a little bit, like 3 Days Grace with some Alice in Chains, just post grunge. But it's on Spotify. But the lyrics have mainly been unchanged. Chord progression's unchanged. Just the style's changed a little bit. But yeah, I started writing music again, and I started, and this will never see the light of day. At least not what I recorded back then. I think it's long gone. I was trying to do country when I first started out. I'm like, I'll do country. I want to do kind of like a Chris Stapleton, Zach Brown type deal, like dark, country. I didn't want to do the bro country. I wanted to do dark country, like White Buffalo. I want to do stuff like that. And come to find out, I'm not that great at it. That's not how my mind works when it comes to writing music. I'm a rocker at heart. I tried to do the country thing for a while, and I got sober in 2018. And I'm like, I'm gonna get serious about this writing music. I'm gonna just write what I want to play. And I found out about this app called GarageBand, and I started messing around with it and recording my own songs. And my first year sober, I recorded a 12-song album. And it's out on Spotify. They're The production quality is absolutely terrible. My vocals are absolutely terrible because I was still trying to find my footing then. It kind of sounds like a weird mix of Fred Durst meets Henry Rollins meets the Beastie Boys. In my opinion, it's not good. It's not how I sing anymore. And I won't put it on streaming, but it's on SoundCloud under my name, Grizzly Ironside. And then I thought that was pretty cool, so I kept writing. And then the pandemic hit. And the pandemic was a crazy time, but there was a lot of positive that came out of it for me personally. I sat down and I was listening to a lot of Queensryche at the time, specifically Empire and Operation Mindcrime albums, and I'm like, I need to record a concept album one day. Because I had started writing songs, I'm gonna do a little acoustic EP, and decided, well, I'll do half acoustic and half electric and do a full-length album. And I recorded The Alleyway. And that is available on streaming. And the production is slightly better than what I put out on SoundCloud. I didn't have a bass at the time, so it's like there's no bass in it at all. I started just adding like synth pads and stuff, trying to make up for it. I have a hard time listening to that album just because I know that I've put out better material. But I actually started investing in better guitars and better basses, better recording material, and I've kept going. Now I've primarily done singles releases for the past year, and I am working on an EP, like I said in the beginning now. And I have a second full-length album that I want to put out. But yeah, I've always got something rolling around in the brain. Like, I'm pretty excited. I like to try new things, but it'll stay in the realm of rock. And the new material I'm working on, I'm hoping you'll see like my influences a little bit more, because I have a lot more than what I show. Like my two of my favorite bands, Stone Sour and Avenged Sevenfold, huge influence on the way that I think, when I'm writing music, but you can't hear it. Like, you never hear that when I write. What I release, it's like, oh yeah, you like Alice in Chains and Foo Fighters and 3 Days Grace. I can tell that. I'm like, yes, but I like so many more other bands that influence me heavily. Like, I've actually got a 6-string bass and a baritone guitar and a 7-string guitar that I'm hoping to kind of break out on this next album and show a little bit more of my heavier influences. But yeah, that's what I got going on as far as recording goes. And I moved up to Murfreesboro hoping I could talk to boys into getting the band back together. And then, we'd grown apart. They started families. We'd grown apart. Different aspects of life, different opinions on life, different opinions on lifestyles. It is what it is. But now I'm like, oh shit. Well, I've got all this recorded material and I wanted to play live. What am I going to do? And I ordered this thing called the Beat Buddy drum machine because I'd seen it online. And I'm like, I'm gonna play my songs over this drum machine. And I did. I ended up getting booked on a music festival up here using that drum machine. And it was really good. Like, it was surprisingly really good. I was the second band on stage and I had the big crowd. So the band that went on after me, they're a touring band. Their name's Nikolai. They were a 3-piece band with a drummer at the time. Now they're a 2-piece band with a guitarist and singer and a bass player, and they play to backing tracks for their drums and keyboards. And Corey, the singer, is like, man, you sounded really good. He's like, I'll tell you something. You got so much fucking potential that you could go play large venues. He said, you're going to have to, he said, I recommend you start using backing tracks and plug them straight into the PA instead of using the drum machine. He said, that's not going to fill the sound that you want. And I'm like, okay. I took that to heart and started researching and seeing what people use in backing tracks. And I'm like, okay, obviously I don't want to get up there and mime. But it wasn't about that. It was like, I can have a bass, I can have some keyboard samplings, and I can have better drums, and I can actually have my songs the way I want them to sound. Because you're limited with a drum machine. Like, I was having to play stuff in a different style. Like, I went from like post grunge to like, it was like that show, I sounded like a punk band. I'm like, I love punk, but I'm not punk. Because those were the best beats. And, I started making my own backing tracks in GarageBand. I met a buddy up here who's actually doing my production. He's done a lot of backing tracks for me. And, I've played probably 20 gigs over the last 2 years using backing tracks, and it's met pretty positively. I not to toot my own horn, but I can hold my own with the rest of the bands on the bills. I've been a co-headliner. I opened up a show last weekend with two fucking heavy metal bands, like really, really, really heavy, and it worked. They liked what I played, the crowd liked what I played, and it was a great night. Now it does come with a downside. It hasn't completely caught on in Nashville yet. You reach out to certain venues and they'll be like, "We're not booking a solo artist who plays over backing tracks. Are you mad you're not going to draw a crowd?" I'm like, I draw crowds. Because there's a lot of the solo artists, tend to just get up there with the acoustic guitar, and that's fine. I'm not knocking that. I just don't want to do that. I want to do something different. And I've got friends that are like, "Oh, we should start a band," and I'm open minded to that, but it's kind of like cool, like for the ego, be like, I can get up there and hold my own with like some awesome bands, and I don't have to worry about people being late for practice or not being able to show up. I just carry my band in my pocket. I put my backing tracks on my phone and go DI right into the PA system. So I've rambled enough. Ask me some questions.
I was going to say, man, we're 20 minutes into this thing already. Come on, man. So,
Yeah.
no, you're good.
No, I can still ramble. You know me.
Oh, yeah. We know that the last time there, too, so don't worry about that. But it is an extensive story and a whole lot to take in. First off, I was going to say, cue the song, the Jason Aldean song, The Small Town. Try that, A Small Town. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a controversial song.
Sadly. Unfortunately, outside of our control. But all right. And just real quick about the military, I guess. First off, what made you want to go into the military? And I guess if you want to just share some of your experiences just for the audience so they know more about it, go ahead.
I wasn't good enough in school to get a damn scholarship.
We could go to the Roll Tide and try to kick some ass right there.
Oh, I was wanting to go to MTSU, man. Well, my dad was a military brat, so my granddad, who's still on this physical plane, well, both granddads were Army, Vietnam vets. And, I always thought that was kind of cool, I'm like, maybe I can do that. I either wanted to be a detective or a soldier. Astronaut too, but then I found out that I really didn't want to go to space. When I got older, I'm like, I'm good. But yeah, my grades just weren't good enough, and I was starting to rebel a little bit. It was like, if I don't leave the town of Arab, Alabama, I'm going to go to jail or get murdered. And that was a very real likelihood. The stupid shit that I was doing, the people I was involving myself with. So I wanted to have control of my life, so I joined the Army. And guess what? I didn't have control of my life for 8 years. I was in the Army for 8 years. I joined in 2005, right out of high school, as an intel guy. I was an intel analyst. Funny story, and I'll try not to ramble. I am legally blind in my right eye. I don't know why. It's been like that for a long time, like since I was a kid. And this was 2005, the height of the Iraq War. George W. Bush was in, so they were taking bodies. At least the Army was. And originally, I was going to try to go Air Force. I wanted to be a weatherman. And because of my vision, they're like, "No, we can't take you, but try the Marines." I'm like, "No, I won't survive Paris Island." "Well, try the Navy." "No, I'm afraid of deep water. I'll just go Army." And I did, and I scored so high on the ASVAB, and my GT score was high. They're like, "Military intelligence is the way to go, man. You'll get a $6K sign-on bonus," which to an 18-year-old kid that was broke, that was a lot of money. "You'll get to do some James Bond shit." I'm like, "Oh hell yeah, sign me up, man. Make me James Bond, make me Jason Bourne. Let's do this." Well, my MOS was intelligence analyst. Keyword analyst. So I got to learn how to write reports and make fucking PowerPoints. But it was still cool. Like I had some pretty cool experiences. I got to see the world, because I never really left Alabama. And after basic training, I went to job school AIT out in Sierra Vista, Arizona, and that was a culture shock. Growing up in Alabama and then going to the fucking desert, crazy, like insane. I'm like, whoa, it was intimidating. And I was there for 6 months, and then I came down on orders for South Korea. And that was my first tour of duty, South Korea. I did a year, and that was probably my favorite. I had a lot of fun. I made a lot of good friends that I still keep in contact with, in the Army from there. Friends that I've had for 20 years. It's crazy to think about that it was that long ago. But I did Korea, and then I went to Fort Gordon, Georgia. That was pretty cool. It was definitely one of the nicer posts that I've been to. And then I re-enlisted. I got promoted to sergeant, and I decided to re-enlist. And I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and deployed to Afghanistan for a year from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Got back, stayed in Fort Campbell for a few months, and then went to Fort Hood, Texas. I think it's now called Fort Cavazos or something. They changed the name. I was there for like 2 years, and I got out I was honorably discharged, but had I not been deployed to Afghanistan before the substance abuse, it would have been that probably wouldn't have happened that way. Because when I got back, I got bad into drinking, like worse. I'm 100% convinced that I'm an alcoholic. I was born that way. That was obvious when I turned 21. When I got back from Afghanistan, it was even worse. And I started drinking a lot more, like taking shots of Jim Beam before I went to PT in the morning. I was abusing pain medication. I was doing other stupid things. And eventually it came to a head, and, the substance abuse got the best of me. I didn't get a DUI or anything like that. I did have a incident to where I tried to leave this earthly plane with a lot of alcohol and some medication. Luckily, I mixed the shit with Adderall, and that's probably what saved me. I don't know. Anyways, I ended up going to rehab, and that's when President Obama was in office, and they were doing the troop drawdown, and like, yeah, fix yourself, but you're not eligible for re-enlistment. You're a liability, which I agreed. I completely was. And keep your nose clean for the next 6 months. And don't get caught drinking, or don't drink. They said don't drink, because I went to rehab, and I was having to go. It was sort of like almost like a probation thing or drug court thing, where I was having to, go to these classes and get papers signed, and enroll in recovery programs. And luckily, I didn't get caught. I didn't stay sober. I didn't get caught. And eventually I got sober. Like, I think back then I stayed away from, I never went back to like pain pills or anything, but, I think I lasted like 9 months sober. And then like right before I left the Army, I started drinking again. And then, it was all fun and games for a couple of years, because it's like, oh, now I know what I have to watch my triggers, and it's come to find out that I am, I do have an addiction to alcohol. I have an addiction to a lot of things, but, in 2018, I didn't hit such a bottom that I tried to take myself out, but I did kind of start seeing the errors of my ways and sought help. And next month I'll have 7 years sober from everything. So anyways, but that was my Army career. When I got out, I was a staff sergeant, never lost rank. At one point in time, I was over probably, for like a week, I might have been over like 30 soldiers, but typically I was like leading, 5 to 10 people at a time. It was pretty rewarding. Fort Hood was the worst but best place I've been, if that makes any sense too. Like, I have this weird love-hate relationship, because it's like that's when my career was starting to go down the shitter, but I made so many good friends while I was there that I found were true friends. And that's where I found out that there were ways that I could get help. There were multiple ways that I could get help for the way that I was feeling, and with the PTSD and alcoholism, depression, anxiety. that didn't involve, having to get drunk or hurt myself. So, yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. And that could actually tie with the challenges here too, but I guess kind of it's kind of bigger the parts, but I guess first off, what was it that kept you going? And then part B would be like do you still have those sort of challenges today in terms of like maybe more so the mental challenges, or I guess what other challenges do you face these days being Grizzly Ironside?
So, what do you mean? What was it that kept me going? What
Uh,
what made me not want to leave this plane again?
well, I was going to say, was it like the voice inside your head? If you wanted to say like the voice of God, or was it your family
Yeah.
that kind of helped you?
Well, it was a little bit of both, man. I've had some spiritual experiences when I was in the hospital. So I don't really consider myself religious, but I do believe in something. And I believe I felt a presence, and it wasn't anything like in Hollywood. It was a feeling, and I believe it was within, sort of like a higher consciousness, that let me know that I could live another way. And, seeing the reaction, when I tried to off myself, for lack of a better term, seeing the reaction of people, it kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And it's like, man, that would have hurt a lot of people. That may have ended my pain on this plane, but that would have hurt a lot of people. So that kind of kept me going for a while. Funny story. When I was getting out of the army, and this was a complete God thing, I'll kind of tie it in. And this is what kind of helped keep me going. And I think this was probably my last time that I actually truly entertained suicide. Because it was after this attempt, and I was, I was getting out of the army, like my back was messed up. I knew I was going to have a surgery. I had just gotten through a nasty divorce and then a nasty whirlwind engagement, which was, when that ended, it was actually harder than my divorce, more expensive too. But I'm driving back to Alabama from Texas, and like the only radio station I don't remember where it was. It might have been Louisiana or Arkansas. I was driving through the backwoods somewhere. I was taking back roads, and the only radio station that was work was like this, pop rock station. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, I can just get my car up to speed and hit a fucking tree and off myself, and that'll be it, and it's he died in a car accident. And this song came on that I used to hate so much. And, what was it? New Radicals, You Get What You Give. And it was the part where he says, don't give up. And I'm like, oh, he's like, you got another, he said, I forget what the exact lyric was, but don't give up, or one last dance. It was something. It's like, just keep going. And I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, okay. I took my foot off the gas and just kept going, and, I think that profound moments like that, the little, silent voices, silent nods from the universe, keep me going. And then it's just like, I realized that I can live a productive life. I don't have to be defined by my past demons. I don't have to be defined by my mistakes. I can actually live a really good life and be a positive influence. Even with my, shortcomings, I can use those to, help others. I can use them to grow. So that keeps me going a lot, and being in good with my family and friends, and, just in a, better mindset, I guess, these days. There are resources out there that I use, to help, whether that be spirituality or treatment. At one point in time, it was church. I kind of drifted away from that, not knocking the church. There were just some, I'm not a big dogma guy. So I think that was probably, why I couldn't get sober through the church, and I ended up going through other means to get sober, and people know there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of resources out there, whether it be a 12-step anonymous program, smart recovery, celebrate recovery, cognitive behavioral therapy. Haven't tried that one. But there's like a lot of cool resources out there that, are geared for people that, have stumbled. And it helps also with the PTSD. The resources that I've used has helped me in a lot of ways. It's helped me get connected more spiritually with my higher power. Especially during COVID, because I got sober. I'd picked up 2 years sober during the COVID pandemic, and like not going to work and being part of the grind. I went to where I was working from home, so I had all this free time, and I would go out to this nature preserve out, not far from our house, and take my dog out there with me and just go out and be one with nature. And it's stuff like that that kind of keeps me going. Without trying to claim a specific entity that I use to get me sober, because like the thing about the recovery community is some people are like super open. If, I do this specific A program, I am not one of those people. I will say that I do something and it works for me, and that there are resources out there.
Actually, it's almost like the Meatloaf song, be like, I will do anything to be sober, but I won't do that.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not saying that I won't do it. I just won't claim it in public. You feel
Hopefully,
me?
So yeah, okay. We won't make a public statement, nonetheless, to do, but privately we'll make a statement.
Yeah, they have all those traditions and stuff. Those who know. That may have just alluded to what I use, but I didn't say anything. So
that's right. Silence is golden, as they would say.
Yep.
So there. But nonetheless, all jokes aside and everything here too. Good to see you doing well, Nate. So
yeah, man.
Okay. Thank you. Thank the man upstairs for that whole deal too. So
oh yeah, absolutely. Like those are just some cool moments. Like, and I wish, like, if I talk, I don't have them all the time. I don't want to sound like, oh, I'm gifted, and I think everybody can have that experience with God or the universe, whatever they want to call it. Jesus, Buddha, whatever. I've had several experiences that were really cool. And I could probably go down like some detailed rabbit holes of like, yeah, this happened, and it really sucked at the time, but like looking back, I'm like, that was a God thing.
You ever point up to this guy afterwards, be like, "You're doing this on purpose, aren't you?" So,
yeah, I do.
I mean, I do it sometimes too. I'd be like, "Damn it, I hate when you do this, and you're doing that on purpose, aren't you?" So
when I first got sober, I would literally do the point up to the sky. Now I think it's all in here. It's all connected, if that makes sense. So it's like, I can point up to the sky. There's nothing wrong with that, but I don't do it anymore. Now it's just maybe put the hand on the heart, that makes sense.
Well, people are going to think that you're doing a Pledge of Allegiance out in public then. So
wouldn't be the first time.
All right, fair enough.
But it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm not knocking that. And sometimes maybe I'll catch myself doing it, And nothing wrong with giving grace, At
least not in public. I don't want people don't want to look at you and be like, that boy ain't right, or something like that. So,
well, if I was worried about that, I wouldn't do half the stuff that I
do. Fair enough. Actually, I think the reason Chandra didn't do their Speedos was because it wasn't summertime yet. They needed the summertime heat to show off them sexy bodies and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. So that show, we thought it was going to end up being a tornado party.
Tornado party?
Mm-hmm. The weather started getting gnarly.
Oh, the weather-wise.
Yeah, it's tornado season in Tennessee. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah. So the sky was like dark and it started raining, and like while I was playing, like I'm like looking at the audience, and I'm like, what the hell are they looking at? And like I'm like singing, and I stop singing and I turn around and it's like pouring down rain, and I'm like, oh. I'm like, this won't be the first time I've played a gig in a tornado. So that's like, I'm like, I was hoping, I'm like, please tell me it's not behind me and everybody's just accepting their inevitable doom. But it's pretty cool.
The impending doom, we wanted to say that. So yeah.
I did call Chunder out on not wearing Speedos, though. I'm like, why are you guys dressed normal? I was told you guys dressed crazy. Their mic stand is interesting though. Possibly offensive to a lot of people, but an interesting choice.
I mean, I see like King Diamond, for instance, having like an inverted crucifix with like made of bones and stuff. So I mean, like that way, it's not offensive.
Butcher babies, like little baby dolls. Like,
okay, I was gonna say I wasn't too sure, but
yeah,
I mean, it's in the name, so I mean,
yeah. So that's it's fun. Those guys were fun.
we do it for a show, so
yeah,
we're showmen at the end of the day,
and they're really chill. Like everybody was really chill. Like now, I'm convinced that the Norse are modern day Vikings. You can't convince me that they ain't doing real life Viking shit. But they were all chill. Good guys.
to say they do the for Valhalla, that old deal.
Close.
Right.
I swear they ruptured my damn eardrums though, man. Like I'm standing right next to the PA system in a small venue, and like for like the next 3 days, it's like, oh, I feel like shit because I can't hear. Next time I'm wearing earplugs.
It's sort of recommended. I mean, it was good. Thank God my dad actually gave me some because I actually saw Nile 6 feet under, a couple other groups, psychroptic and embryonic autopsy. And of course, I think you obviously know by now, they always start off at a good volume. It's at least tolerable for the ears. And then maybe halfway through the set list, they'll jack up the volume. So then it becomes a little hard.
Yeah.
So still kill a show, but it's like, oh, I think it was after song 5 for Nile. I was like, they bumped up the volume. So I picked them out and just put them in.
Yeah, no, the Norse wasn't that kind. They were like loud right out the gate, which was a great thing. It's just like my dumb ass standing literally next to the PA speaker, like, oh yeah, it ain't gonna hurt me. Yeah, it did.
I'm Grizzly. I could take it like a man.
Exactly. And my ears weren't very. I don't know how Grizzly's ears are, but they weren't very strong that night. I should have done what my wife did and went and stood outside and watched. Because like they had a patio outside, and the rain died down after my set. It was weird. Like it died down. Like it started and died down after my set. And then my wife and a couple of friends were like hanging out outside. I'm like, I should have done that. That would have saved my hearing.
The Norse gods were pleased with Grizzly Ironside setlist. So yeah.
Yep.
That's all good. So I know you mentioned about COVID a couple of times here too, but was it more so a blessing in disguise for music? And I guess how about was it for you personally and then family wise?
It was for me personally, outside of a few friends that passed away, it wasn't bad at all. If anything, like I view that there was a lot of positive things that I learned about myself during that time. I learned how to be comfortable being by myself. I learned how to be comfortable with silence, and I learned how to be comfortable going out into nature and actually living, and moving. And then the songwriting. Of course, I was also, keep in mind, I was in Jacksonville, Florida, and I don't know which way a lot of people swing, but if you don't like restrictions, Florida was the place to be. There's a reason why we call people Florida man down there. But for me, it was a pretty positive experience. Not that I would ever want to go through anything like that again. But like it wasn't. I don't feel that I was negatively impacted by it. I've been working from home for 5 years now. I have not had to drive to a corporate office in 5 years, at least not regularly. Like maybe I'll travel there like once a year, but it's pretty nice. Like I get to work from home now, and it really threw me into the music, and it really put my trust in my spirituality, and my sobriety too, because a lot of people during that time, relapsed, and I didn't. I got to learn a lot of stuff, learn a lot of cool shit, about life. Now, granted, it sucks. I did have how many buddies did I have die? I think I had 2 or 3 that died of it. One was already in ill health. One caught me off guard, and then the other one was also already in ill health. So, but the one that caught me off guard, I'm like, man, he was healthy, up until that, and then he ended up getting pneumonia and passing away in the hospital. I didn't catch COVID until like 2023 or 2022, I think. It was after everything started returning back to normal, and I caught it, and I'm like, seriously. And then it's like, I swear I caught it like twice that year, and then once in 2023, and it was really nasty in 2020. 2023, I actually thought I was dying. Like, I couldn't get off my couch. I wasn't eating. Like, I'm like laying there, and my wife's like, oh, it's just the man flu. I'm like, man flu has never given me fever dreams where I'm seeing deceased people telling me that I'm not done yet on this plane. That was another God thing, that I could go down a rabbit hole on, but yeah, that was gnarly. Like but I'd also we had traveled to Arizona to visit my in-laws. My brother and sister-in-law live out there, and we went there for Thanksgiving. So going to where it's hot in Arizona and then coming back to Nashville in December, because we stayed until December and we flew back, and it's cold, your immune system is screwed. Yeah. So that was probably that. But yeah, I hope I never catch that again. It sucked. If I do, I'll kick its ass.
Somehow we'll kick its ass, but yeah. All right. So, but like I said earlier, it's good to have you along here for the ride. So, all right.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for your losses there too. So, I know that feeling. So,
yeah.
Right. That also, just like go to the funny side with the Florida man, obviously. It's funny when you could just type in Florida man and in this case, your date of birth, for instance, and then they'll just bring up some incident that's just what the fuck are you people doing, man? So,
I mean, Florida's Florida.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's weird. So you got your certain areas. I lived in Jacksonville, and I will tell you this: I think there is a reason why they talk about Jacksonville in the Deadpool movie, the first Deadpool movie. Honestly, Jacksonville's not that bad. I enjoyed it. My wife couldn't handle the heat, and I wanted to play music again, and I didn't really see much of an opportunity to play music down there. So, but I had a lot of good friends there.
Is there not much of a music scene in Jacksonville, or is it just too crowded?
Not that I know of. Maybe, but I don't know. Well, what's funny now, knowing what I know about Nashville, I probably would have gotten more gigs in Jacksonville than what I get up here because of how competitive it is up here. I know, I had a buddy that played in a punk band, and he played a couple of local shows in Jacksonville. But by that time, I couldn't have even fathomed playing a show by myself, because I didn't know about drum machines. I didn't know about backing tracks back then. That's all stuff that I started learning when I moved up here and the band fell through. Because my intention is I'm going to get this band back together, and that didn't happen. It's okay, what do I do? Because I don't want to play acoustic coffee house bullshit. I stole that from Boondock Saints, I think.
I just figured just go in there, sing Kumbaya and all that stuff.
Yeah, I did a hybrid show a couple of weeks ago, and I played over an hour of acoustic stuff, and it bored me to tears. I'm I don't want to play an acoustic show like that if I don't have to again.
It was one of those, please God, kill me moments. Is that probably what it was?
Well, I should have played that entire gig acoustically. And here's why. Because my buddy owns a store, and him and the store next to him were throwing a customer appreciation day, and they're like, hey, have one of your solo artists come out here and sing for us for 3 hours. And if you listen to what I play, that's probably not what you want to have on customer appreciation day in between your two stores, as people are walking in having fucking loud hard rock blowing in their face with a PA system. Maybe, but there were some pissed off people, not the workers, but people going in to get their, customer appreciation from a store, like go and get their deal on a shirt or whatever, or pants. They were like looking at me, like one lady flipped me off. And I'm like, I looked at the guy. I said, next time we do this, I'm doing it full blown acoustic. We're not doing tracks. We're not doing distortion because I am uncomfortable. You know, and that would have been okay. Like, I don't prefer just because I love to rock out, but that would have been okay. Like one time, like every once in a while, I'll do it. But even then, like the acoustic stuff, I was playing stuff like Chili Peppers, Puddle of Mud, Nickelback, who else? Like I was still playing rock acoustically. And then, I had 2 heavier sets. But yeah, 3 hours is draining.
I mean, you see, like even like maybe the big artists go like an hour and a half, maybe at most, depending on the set list. But
yeah, like
geez,
I think typically, yeah, that's pretty standard. My standard set list is 45 minutes, and I'm fine between 45 minutes and an hour. And I'm probably okay, maybe going 2 hours, but man, luckily, like I took breaks, but I started hitting a wall on that last set, like 2 songs into the very last set, and I'm like, Jesus, man, I want to, tear this down and go home. I'm tired.
Yeah, I can imagine there too. It's almost like, say, if you're like one of those 3-hour movies, it's like maybe already past like a good amount of action, but it's like the last stretch of it. It's like, please, can it just be over already?
So. And it's especially like, consider that it was almost like I was busking, but not busking. I felt like it was almost like a busking setup, but it didn't draw a crowd. Like nobody, except maybe my buddies that own the stores, nobody gave 2 shits, like up until the end. And then people start coming up and making requests. Hey, play Santana. I'm like, did you not hear the last 3 songs that I played? What makes you think that I would know that would be in my wheelhouse? I've been playing like hard rock, and I just got finished with a Bon Jovi song. Like, I'm not going to play Santana. No.
Play Freebird.
Yeah. I would have sooner played Freebird than Santana. And I love Santana. Don't get me wrong. It's just not in my wheelhouse. It's like asking me to play Dave Matthews. Not going to happen.
Don't say we're going to do that. Because you're so smooth. We're going to try that one.
I thought like maybe if I added a Santana song to the set list, it would be the one that he did with Everlast. Or not Everlast. What was his name? Whitey Ford. You know what I'm talking about?
I forget the name of the song, but I know the big ones are. I think the biggest ones are always like Black Magic Woman and then
Smooth with Rob Thomas. Yeah. Well, there's one that he did with I think Whitey Ford, Everlast. What is his name? That's gonna bug me. I gotta look that up.
All right. I guess in the meantime, while you're looking it up here too, can you tell us where you got the band name Grizzly Ironside, and then I guess what gear do you have?
Yeah. So that band name's not important. My band name's important. So
I'm not important. So
I'm plenty important.
I mean,
anyways, this dude that sang a song, "What It's Like to Sing the Blues," did a song with Santana, and I can't remember the dude's name for the life of me, which is sad because I listen to him frequently. Anyways, that happens. So Grizzly Ironside came when I was trying to figure out what I was going to call myself, and I was a big fan of the show Vikings, and I still am. And I forget what season it is, and it's towards the middle. I think it might be season 3 or season 4, where Ragnar's son Bjorn Ironside goes out, and he has to do this kind of pilgrimage as a rite of passage, and he fights this grizzly bear in the snow, and he wins. And I'm like, that's what I'm going to call myself, Grizzly Ironside. So that's where the name came from.
Was it actually more? I guess he would have to use an axe, but if he did it with his bare hands, that'd be pretty awesome too.
No, he used. Did he use an axe or a knife? I was drunk when I watched that, by the way. Wait,
yeah, no, we get to watch white people beat up on grizzly bears. How about that? So
the first time I watched that, I was drunk, I think. By the time I was coming up with a band name, I think I'd already gotten sober. So that might have been my first time seeing that scene sober. So
I would say it was the epiphany, if we wanted to call it.
Yeah, so, yeah. Because like when I was drinking, I wasn't thinking about band names. but yeah, that was the inspiration. And it's I think I went with that one too, because that was like easy. But the band that I was wanting to get back together was called Southbound Grizzly. I had no part in that. You know, um, I was very uninvolved in that. Like I think I played one show with them, if that, and it wasn't even a full set. Um, and I was thinking, like, maybe if we get the band back together, anything that I record under the name of Grizzly Ironside, we can just transfer it over to Southbound Grizzly. Um, but that never happened, and I kept Grizzly Ironside. So,
Fair enough there too.
of course, they're like, "Oh, you're trying to copy." I'm like, "No, I'm not trying to copy you guys."
Jimmy, what are you doing?
Yeah,
So,
like because it was either going to be Grizzly Ironside or my full name, Jimmy Dunlap. And I'm like, let's go with Grizzly Ironside.
maybe you could do Jimmy Dunlap and the Grizzlies if you wanted to do it that way.
Yeah,
Could have done that way.
I could have. But yeah, I mean, Grizzly Ironside stuck. I mean, my boss calls me that. It's weird. People that know me like have forgotten that my name's Jimmy now because they're so used to seeing me on Facebook, Grizzly Ironside. I'm like, no, I'm Jimmy. Grizzly Ironside is my music name. So it's fun. I'm
That's just
glad
almost like a Batman identity, yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that the name stuck, because it's, I guess, fairly unique. It gets people thinking of what does that mean, and I'm like, I just stole it from a TV show. And I could have called. I mean, I might as well have, like, if you would have caught me on the right day, I might have just called myself Amish Mafia. You ever watch that show? I used to watch that show.
I never saw it because I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
It was so fucking bad. It was so bad. It was so staged. It was all fake.
I mean, this was A&E, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, was it A&E or Discovery?
I swear it must have been A&E because I know me and a friend of mine, we were real big into Storage Wars. So
yeah, I think it was because like back then, like it was Vikings had first came out. They started doing the Fargo TV series. What else did I used to watch? Naked and Afraid. I could have called myself Naked and Afraid. There was another one, like a survival series where these two guys would go out, and I can't remember. Cody Lundin was one of the main guys, and like it was Cody Lundin, and like they had like 3 different people that would like each season would change out that would go with him because like I don't know why. I think maybe he just didn't get along with him or whatever.
I was saying Bear Grylls or something.
No, it wasn't Bear Grylls.
No,
it was interesting though.
I mean, that's the only guy I really know. And then outside a couple episodes of Survivor, I mean, that's my extent of knowledge with like the whole Survivor or that Surviving the Wild sort of drama TV.
So, yeah. So, I mean, Vikings gave me the coolest one, though.
Actually, I was going to say the one that actually piqued my interest, I saw a couple times while running on the treadmill, was it's the one where they pull in all the stars. They're doing like the Navy SEALs sort of training and
I think that one's called Special Forces or something like that. I've heard of that one.
Actually, the unfortunate one was they all end up getting captured and they have to go through the rigorous torture, if we want to call it that. So,
the serious training, yeah.
Yeah, more serious stuff. I think they're really pressing the limits here too, but I guess that's what you had to do when you're Navy SEAL. So, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was an intel weenie. I didn't have to do shit like that.
The nerdy analyst too. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so that was going back to like the army thing is like I wasn't a Rambo type badass, but like I went on patrols. I got blown up sitting at my desk. Oh yeah, there ain't no damn green zone in Afghanistan. Don't let anybody tell you any different. People die in porta shitters over there, man. That went really dark really quick, but
I mean, this is a dark comedy at this point, so
yeah, I am fine with that. I'm a huge fan of Carl Jung, and I believe the shadow is a very important thing to acknowledge and integrate. So,
do tell. But I guess you sometimes incorporate what you've gone through in your lyrics. Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah. So yeah, the first album was a lot about sobriety and the journey to sobriety. There were some songs that tackled like there's a couple of songs that I've released as singles that are on that first album that's on SoundCloud. Um, Perfect is about a relationship ending. That's about my ex fiance, and it's not a love song. It is not a love song. It's not wanting her back. It's just like making peace with that relationship was fucked, and neither one of us were perfect. And then you have like a force to be reckoned with. I wrote that when I was like 15 or 16. And I'm going to get extremely blunt and candid here, and you can censor me if you want. That song was about purity culture and struggles with masturbation, you know. And it's not like struggling with the act of it. It's like the principality of like, oh, I'm going to go to hell for doing this. And, it's a natural human thing, whatever. We don't have to go into that whole thing, but that's what that one's about. And then there's a song called Glory, and I released that as a single last year, and I hated the way that I recorded it. So you guys are getting it again in a couple of months as part of that 5-song EP. That one is 100% about sobriety and spirituality. Like it's very on the nose. It doesn't mince words. When I wrote the Alleyway, so the Alleyway is sort of like a mixture. I wanted to be a concept album, and there's like maybe 5 songs that are kind of into the concept, and then the rest you can consider ancillary. Um, there's a lot of like coping with PTSD and depression in those songs. Maybe even some like there's some definite overcoming addiction, but I feel like that one specifically is more deeper than the addiction thing. It goes into like the mental health stuff, and it goes into other things. Like when I got back from Afghanistan, I used to have this recurring dream, you know. Um, and part of that dream, I wanted to write a short story because it was a very intriguing dream, to the point to where I was convinced that it was real sometimes. So I tried to write a short story, and that took me to a really dark place. Gave up on that because I'm like, if I write this thing, it's going to kill me. Um, so I decided when I got sober, I've been 2 years sober, like, let's make The Alleyway have some of that short story in it. So it's got, you have your protagonist who is facing this darkness, and he's trying to protect what he sees as a victim, but turns out that victim is the manipulator the entire time and the enemy, and he ends up getting kind of stuck in this respawning loop every time he dies. Um, and there's a couple of songs on there that you can tell, like the title track, The Alleyway, is this weird, and it's the only song that I have that is mainly piano. I'm not a piano player, but I was just messing around on GarageBand one night and actually playing, a little bit of piano. And this weird, kind of reminds me of Nine Inch Nails, maybe a little bit. That was on the nose about, hey, this is what the whole story's about. Your protagonist is stuck in this loop. And then you have the song New Orleans on there, which kind of closes out the album to where, unfortunately, the protagonist does not learn his lesson, and he fucking dies again and has to go through it all over again. Respawns back at the alleyway. um, but you also have like other songs on there, like that don't have anything to do with that. Like "Can't Break Me" is about me getting fired from uh, a band due to my drinking. Um, let's see, "Hits the Fan" is about a stalker. Um, this dude was stalking a dear friend of ours, and then he ended up trying to stalk me, and that didn't go over too well for him. I took him to court over that. What else? "Until We Meet Again" was a song to my granddad that taught me how to play guitar. That was a song to my granddad because he was dying at that time. You know, it was also a tribute to another guy who kind of served as a granddad figure, but he wasn't blood related. But he had passed away a couple of years, so that song was kind of like a tribute to them. "Young Guns" is about the movie Young Guns Billy the Kid, my favorite movie. That song is a straight up, a tribute to Billy the Kid. There's probably a couple more on there. Reap the Whirlwind is also kind of a tribute to the Billy the Kid movie. So there's 2 songs about Young Guns on Alleyway. Now, like a lot of the stuff that I write, it's more or less about, it's spirituality, but it kind of stays away from like a lot of the dogma stuff. Like the song that I'm getting ready to record tomorrow is called Courage. And that's more or less about, when you were a kid until life crept in and shit happened, you were pretty brave, and that's kind of what it's about, is finding that inner child and inner courage again. There's also another song that I'm working on that we'll probably start recording soon after Courage, called Save Yourself. And it's spelt Savior Self. So not like save your, but save yourself. And that's going to be very Jungian philosophy. We're going to incorporate some Jungian psychology and archetypes in that song. And then I got another song. I was working with a indie band management company at the time, and I will not name them because the relationship did not end well at all. And I don't want either one of us to get sued. So exactly. But
Mum's the word.
It didn't end well. It didn't end well. So there's a song that I'm writing called Solace. And they were trying to get me. They're like, you don't need to distort your guitars and you need to sing with more twang. They were trying to get me to turn into Jelly Roll. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go with what's trendy. I can't write like that. I already tried the country thing. I'm not doing it again. So Solace is a very heavily Nickelback inspired song, and I'm not talking about the soft Nickelback. If people actually listen to Nickelback, they got some heavy stuff. I'm talking about like This Means War Nickelback, like the almost Pantera-esque riffs that they did, but melodic singing. That's a very Nickelback inspired song, kind of about people trying to get you to sell your soul to get streams. And then the rest don't really have lyrics yet. Like they have ideas tentatively, but don't really have lyrics yet.
We haven't gotten that far yet. So.
Yeah. Oh, there is one that I want my buddy to play saxophone on tentatively. It's a song called Good For You. And it's like the music, if I had to describe it, is like a mix between Foo Fighters and Breaking Benjamin, like both on the more rockin' side. And that's just about, relationships. Wishing people the best, like maybe if you don't get along with them, you still wish them the best, and love them from a distance. So anyways, it's going to be probably a little bit more sprinkled with different things, this stuff that I'm planning on working on. So, but yeah, like pretty much the addiction thing is, fairly easy to use as inspiration to write about. There's a lot of good material that you could write off that. The same with mental illness. I mean, look at Linkin Park. God rest Chester's soul.
That's for sure. Actually, I was going to say yours is like got a mixture of a black comedy at times with like something serious. So, I mean, we were doing something funny, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we're getting blown up in Afghanistan next. So it's almost like, geez,
oh yeah.
It took a hard dark turn, so yeah.
Oh yeah, I do that. My people that know me are used to it, but like I trip my boss out with that all the time, and he's like, "Oh, damn, you got dark." I'm like, "That's me. I am a dark comedy, and I'm okay with that."
I'm sorry, I can't help it. So
well, that's also a lot of what keeps me going too. That you asked earlier is accepting who I am. Not sitting there and rolling around in the pig shit. To say that. Oh, I'm gonna let my depression hold me down and all this other shit hold me down and end me. It's like, no, I've been through stuff, I've seen stuff, and I've done bad things, and I came out on the other side stronger for it, and I'm not afraid to fucking make jokes about it. So
good, man. All right. So I don't think I think I asked earlier about the gear. Sorry,
you got to reel me in, or I'll start rambling.
No, you're good. Actually, I think I asked earlier about what gear you use. I guess both for live and then
Right.
record, and then it
Yeah.
can kind of segue into AI and like all the other stuff there too.
Okay.
Because
So you want to go with the gear?
start with the gear first, and then see if you can
Yeah.
segue into AI. Because I don't know if you use it or not.
I do. So what I'm using now is I am using a Schecter Omen Lite as my main guitar. That's a 6-string guitar, and I tune it E flat, I guess, whatever half step down is. Sometimes I'll take it to drop D flat or whatever. I use the same damn tuning that Alice in Chains uses. Me being a solo artist, carrying a lot of equipment is not fun. So I've actually downsized. I used to have this big ass Marshall. I don't have that anymore. I sold it. Now I use a Line 6 HX Stomp as my amp emulator. And you can customize your settings. You can pick out different amp simulators, and it sounds like you're playing through an app, a real life app. So what I've done is I have a couple of patches on that I've customized to fit the style that I play, and I will run my guitar into that, and run that through a DI box straight into the PA system, and then I run all my backing tracks through my phone. I record them in GarageBand and use Easy Drummer for my drums, and I record my own bass. I just a Squire bass for that, really simple, and then some built-in synth pads in GarageBand, and then I'll just play it from my phone, run it into the DI through the really simple setup, running in through the DI into the PA. And provided that I have a good sound guy, it sounds good. But I will tell you this: if you have a not great sound guy, you will sound like shit if you do what I do. It is really easy to get screwed by a sound guy. Let's see. Stuff that I haven't been using, but I plan on using in the studio, is I have a Schecter Diamond baritone guitar. I don't think they make those anymore, but it's a Schecter Diamond baritone guitar with EMG active pickups. I do plan on breaking that out for several songs that are upcoming. I have a M17 7-string guitar that I need to get the electric fixed on, so I can maybe incorporate that into some of my live shows. My dad gave me a 6-string bass. I don't know what brand it is. He just gave it to me because he didn't really care for it. Got a Squire bass. I got a Squire Telecaster. Got a Martin acoustic electric. Got a Yamaha acoustic. And I've also got a Boss Katana that I jam around with sometimes. And I use a Headrush FR 112, I think it's called, as my amp when I'm playing at home. I barely carry that with me to live shows because I just don't need it. But for amps at home, it's really beneficial because I can just jam out. I can plug my backing tracks into one input and plug my guitar Line 6 into the other input and like simulate a live show in my loft. It's amazing.
Jamming out in the Grizzly's cave, if we want to call it that. So,
what was that?
I was trying to make a joke. I was going to say the Grizzly's lair or something.
Oh, the Grizzly cave. There you go.
Grizzly cave, yeah.
So I jam in my loft. We live in a decent apartment, and my music room is also my office, which is also the loft. So the wife gets tortured with me practicing and writing songs because I'm not kind enough to put headphones on while I do that.
Sorry, babe. I have to do this for about an hour or so. So,
oh yeah.
Plus, I guess you still work from home with your main job, or is it hybrid?
No, I work from home. Like every once in a while, I'll go out to Salt Lake City for a business trip or Miami for a business trip. But I'm primarily at home, and I'm okay with that. I dress like this to work. But what you don't know is I talk to executives a lot dressed like this, and they don't give a shit because they're dressed like this too. I'm a fraud consultant. I'm a lead fraud consultant for my company. So I started out in fraud investigations. That was my career after I got out of the military. I kind of started to work my way up. I've been in an investigation type field for 20 years, because the intel analysis, there were investigations involved, and I cut my teeth there. But, started out in a call center at a major bank, And then I work for another company, a private company right now, as their principal fraud consultant. And my main thing is using my experience to help them build out fraud programs. So it's like, it's pretty cool. Like, especially like when they sent me to Miami and I'm sitting with small businesses and kind of mentoring them. It's like, okay, this is nicer than number crunching, even though I do number crunch. Somebody has to do the investigations. So it's pretty cool. I like it. They pay me good money and they leave me the hell alone for the most part. They trust me to do things.
At least I hope they trust you. So yeah.
Oh yeah, they trust me. They trust me.
Well, we still got a job, so we're doing something right. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. And I think you said you did use a little bit of AI. Is it?
Oh yeah.
With the whole thing with the drumming, and I guess, or and artwork too. I'm not too sure.
So I use Easy Drummer and then the Auto Drummer and GarageBand, and you can consider that AI. And those are drum programs. I think live drummers will do beats and they make the loops and you can program it. But I consider that AI. The keyboard sounds that I use are built into GarageBand or that my buddy AJ uses. It's been producing my EP. They're in his Pro Tools and he's got plugins, and those are AI. I use, and I will shamelessly admit this because I don't have Metallica money. I have good money, but I have to support a family. No kids, just the wife and the dog and the cat. But we like to live comfortably. We like to go on nice trips and do nice things since we don't have kids. So that's where my money goes. So if I had Metallica's money, I would hire artists to do my artwork, but I use ChatGPT.
I just wasn't sure if it was going to be like the Skynet conspiracy, as I like to call it now, because a lot of people seem.
I think it could go that way. I think AI could be abused. I think if it got into the wrong hands, it could be a very negative thing. But I also think that it's not entirely bad in itself. I think there's some good things that come out of it. You ever tried to have a therapy session with ChatGPT if you're just having a shitty day and you need to vent?
I think they do like an Apple's. I don't know if it's called sensitivity, but something like you could chat with this AI that Apple has in it now. And it's basically like a therapist. So yeah,
I would rather talk to a real person if I was really hurting. But I've just had like a rough day, and I don't want to vent to somebody. And I have no problem venting to certain people that I trust. But if they're unavailable, no shame. I'll vent to ChatGPT. And then it's funny because it's the artificial intelligence, but it pulls from sources that might be like, oh, read this article. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it's pretty fun. And then what's funny, out of boredom, and this not music related, one of my favorite spiritual authors is Neville Goddard. And that'll tell you a lot about my spiritual beliefs right there. But I got bored last night. I was in ChatGPT. I'm like, simulate a conversation between Neville Goddard and Alan Watts. Okay, cool. That's a cool conversation. I could see that happening. Simulate a conversation between Neville Goddard and Peterson. I feel like Jordan Peterson would be more angry in that conversation, but okay. And just out of boredom, just bouncing all these philosophical ideas. I'm like, okay, maybe not 100% accurate, but it's interesting to kind of see the capabilities of what it can pull from.
Does it actually simulate their voice or something, or is it just kind of like that robotic voice you normally hear?
No, it's all text. So it's like you're reading an article. So it's not like you're hearing anything. I'm sure there's technology that you could do that. That would be definitely interesting. But here's where I think AI is negative and again, this is away from music. I will look for lectures. So Neville Goddard died in the 70s. I like old school, new thought spirituality. That's my thing. So he died in the 70s, and there's all this. Same with Alan Watts. Really big admirer of Alan Watts, and both of them died before you had all of this AI. But now there's these AI videos imitating both of these new spiritual teachers, and the message in these AI videos couldn't be farther away from what these two men believed. And I'm like, that's where it gets dangerous. So there's also some, like they'll take. Now this is getting back into the music thing, but if Corey Taylor sang Avenged Sevenfold, Unholy Confessions, and they did it, and I'm like, man, that is just absolutely terrible. Corey Taylor is my favorite singer, and he would have killed that song, but AI just dropped the ball on that. But 10 years from now, you could easily make somebody think that Corey Taylor covered that song and killed it. I don't know if I'm not totally against somebody using AI to write a song. I struggle with writing lyrics, man. Lyrics is the longest part of my process, and I'm probably going to use ChatGPT to not write a full song of lyrics for me. I can get the skeleton down, but I might have it say, hey, find me a better word or a better phrase. I don't know about having the whole song written in ChatGPT. If you do that, cool. I don't know if I'm down with that for me. I would never let it write my music. Well, I wouldn't let it write my guitar parts. Anything else, I would let it write. My guitar parts is like, no. My guitar parts are me. I've got those. Now, if it wanted to do like a lead guitar part that I didn't think of, or like a second guitar part, cool, but I've got to do the meat and potatoes of it. I've got to at least have some part in it for my own sake.
It's Andy too. So
yeah, and there's some cool stuff, like some vocal stuff in that my buddy was using on like this EP that we're about to do. Like, I don't have that capability in GarageBand. He had it in Pro Tools, and it's like I think I'm probably the first rock guy that he's produced. I think he still stays mainly in the country and pop realms, and it's very interesting because he'll like give me ideas. Like, there's a couple of vocal effects that he used that I'm like, man, that kind of reminds me a little bit of Timbaland, and I don't write stuff like that, but it's like little nuances here, like not all over my vocals. It's still rock, but like little call outs here, like during the breakdown section of a couple of the new songs, he used this like kind of like crazy plug-in to make my voice sound like celestial and put it in the background. I'm like, dude, that is cool. That is just so cool. So I think stuff like that is really cool. I don't know if that's necessarily AI though. But I think you and I talked on the last interview that, if somebody like struggled with some kind of disability, but they wanted to write a song and used AI to do it, I mean, why not?
it has its good purposes, but yeah, I think I did bring that up. So we at least covered that much. So
yeah,
and like I said last time, check carefully. So,
yeah.
So Grizzly, we produced all the questions here very good. So we pretty much only got 36 minutes left, but here, let's get into the fun questions. Ready?
Yeah.
So, all right. So first off, what would you say is currently your favorite food?
It's either going to be. It's funny because I'm simple, but lately it's gotten to be birria tacos or tacos birrias, and that's your beef tacos fried in like cheese, and they make this kind of like au jus style sauce that you dip the tacos in. It's really cool. Probably not great for the heart health, but it's really tasty. Big sucker for sushi too. My favorite roll is like the smoked salmon roll. It's simple, but man, I just love it. But yeah.
This is where we cue the part, the Leonard Skinner song. He's a simple kind of man.
Love it, love it. Yeah. I mean, there's some also other interesting food items that I like. However, I don't necessarily know if it's. I mean, I love me some jambalaya. Jambalaya is up there.
Spicy, but very good nonetheless.
So, absolutely.
Actually, there used to be a California kitchen. I really wish they would open it back up because it was absolutely a killer restaurant. But they did a jambalaya, and boy, it was fire. I'll just say that much for this day and age terminology for a cool. Because it seems like everyone does it from like cool to awesome, sick, radical. Now everyone's saying like fire. So
yeah,
you get the idea. So.
Yeah, banging, bussing. stuff like that. The TikTok lingo.
Apparently. So, all right, all good choices are there. So, last time we did go into detail about mainly like anime and some other TV shows here too. But just for the audience, can you tell them what your favorite movie and TV series are?
Favorite movie, Young Guns. Like I always go back to Young Guns. Just maybe it's the nostalgia for me. But all-star cast: Emilio Estevez, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, Charlie Sheen. Just so many good people. May not be the most historically accurate, but it's just such a good movie. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And check out Young Guns too while you're at it. That was good too. Favorite TV show is Fargo.
Actually, I was going to say we talked about Ed, Ed, Eddie a good bit there too. So, would
Oh
you say
yeah,
that was your favorite cartoon?
it was up there. It was up there. I think I preferred Dexter's Lab back in the day. But like I think my favorite cartoons eventually became like Dragon Ball Z. You know, it was Robotech. Robotech played for a summer, and then like they quit playing it so much, and then I got into Dragon Ball Z. So
Toonami. So
yeah, Toonami. Yeah, the Toonami days. But yeah, I did enjoy some Ed, Ed and Eddie. You know,
I will say, Ed, Ed is Born. I will fight anybody about it. That was the best episode I've seen. So, especially just using the camera, you just see Eddie, unfortunately, getting abused, but at the same time,
yeah,
it's just absolutely hilarious.
dark humor. I also like Nickelodeon. I mean, before I watched that damn documentary. Um, Hey Arnold was a good one. Doug was a favorite of mine. Rugrats. Uh, you know, in adult years is probably Family Guy for a long time.
Oh yeah. So, thanks, Eli. All great choices there.
You know, Futurama, American Dad. You know, the more adult themed stuff. But if I had to just pick one, it'd be Dragon Ball Z all day long.
I guess not so much like the newer stuff like Super or that Daima. It was like the
I
old
haven't
school
seen any
Dragon
of
Ball
it.
Z.
Yeah, I'm talking about like old school, like not Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball GT, but Dragon Ball Z, pure and unadulterated Dragon Ball Z.
It would be the Frieza, Cell, and Majin Buu arcs. So yeah.
Well, you got what was it before that? You had the Raditz arc, the Vegeta arc, and then the Frieza, Cell, and Majin Buu. Well, you also had the Android, the short-lived Android arc, which kind of blended into the Cell arc. I had so much good nostalgia with that.
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine always thought that Cell had the penis in the back of his back there too. So, so that's why he never really liked Cell. But I was like, I didn't really care. I just watched it.
Yeah, I mean, I was a kid. You know, I thought it was cool. I still think it's cool.
That's for sure. All right, all great choices there. Uh, not sure if you do any drinking these days. 'Cause I know you said you've been sober, but I guess what's your favorite alcoholic drink, and then what's your favorite non-alcoholic drink?
Well, I don't drink anymore. I am not capable of functioning like a decent human being when I drink. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a favorite drink that I used to drink a lot. And these two, well, there was three. I loved Guinness as my beer. Jack and Coke was a drink of choice, and then Bloody Marys was a drink of choice. So those three were the top. My favorite non-alcoholic drink is pretty weird, man. A lot of people get disgusted by it, like whole milk, like not 2% whole milk. I'm talking about like the whole milk you buy with the red cap on it, and it's just like, you know, I'm sure it's filtered, but it's like, you know, high fat, and you know, I'm gonna have a glass before I go to bed tonight, just like I do every other night.
I mean, I say a glass of warm milk kind of helps with falling asleep, but I actually did have a glass, a 2%, unfortunately. So
Yeah,
before topping
I
out
mean,
here. So
I don't know if I could drink 2%, but I could mix it in with something like cereal.
I mean, that's sort of how it goes. You know, you're dipping your Oreos in it there too.
Yeah, I give it some flavor.
I would say I've done like the double stuffed Oreos. I've done like two because they get a nice little mushy where they still hold together, but then you're able to fit them both in the mouth and it just dissolves real quick.
Yeah.
So, now I want dessert, but unfortunately it's almost 1 in the morning over here. So
Yeah, I feel you, man.
sadly.
I've reached the age to where that's not wise anymore, eating dessert late at night.
We'll be up all night then. So,
Yep.
okay. And for the last fun questions right here, here's how it worked instead. So, if you have a favorite song of all time, feel free to share. Otherwise, if that's too hard, give us your top 5 bands that you still love to this day.
I can do both of those. Easy. Top favorite song right now is Cosmic by Avenged Sevenfold. I cannot listen to that without crying. Not like boohoo ugly cry, but like if you notice, I get tears running down my eyes when I listen to it.
The manly cry. The manly cry.
It's yeah, manly cry, grizzly cry. That song just moves me on so many ways. Like I feel like it speaks a lot of spiritual truths. I feel like it tells a story that I felt that I've lived before in a good way. It's just it's a good song. Like I musically, lyrics, like one of the best songs I've ever heard. Pure genius. And it's probably the least Avenged Sevenfold like song they've written. Like it's very different. It's off their new album, but it is so good. It is just good in every way. My top 5 favorite bands: Stone Sour, Avenged Sevenfold, Alice in Chains, Metallica, and Queensryche.
I always feel bad for Queensryche because I never really give him much credit. I heard Jet Say Woman a couple times. I don't know too much of the music, so I'm like, I know my dad loves him, but damn, I don't give him much credit. So
You got to check out Operation Mindcrime.
that's what most people would say, especially if they are big fans. So
Yep.
all right.
Operation Mindcrime and Empire were good. Promised Land was okay. It was a little bit weird. But yeah, if you're wanting the good stuff, those two. Jet City Woman's on Empire.
All right, fair enough. And all great choices there, nonetheless. Okay.
Yep.
So, Grizzly, we are almost out of time right here, and we are down to one more question in my podcast. But before we jump into it, would you like to ask me anything real quick?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask you. It's going to be the same thing I asked you last time. What got you into the podcasting?
You know, funny enough, I actually did share that video of my first ever interview on Facebook. I don't know if you saw it yet. So, and actually, funny enough, that was actually an interview with a drummer out of Nashville who's actually now in some country bands. He's now playing some good venues, so he's doing good. So, actually, it was 3 years ago. So I wonder if I've accidentally been telling people it was 4 years ago. But anyway, it happened during the heart of COVID. So I decided to finally start a YouTube channel, but I wasn't just getting anywhere just doing drum covers because I'm sure, as you know, it's a saturated market. You have to diversify in some sort of way when it comes to YouTube. So I actually have been hearing about podcasting, but I never really understood what it was. So I looked up the definition, just mainly Googling it and just getting like simple answers. And like even seeing some videos, it was like, oh, these guys are like having conversations. They may go off on tangents at times, but they still have like, say, a script. Like, here's some questions. This is what we're doing. I'm asking you some questions. I'm getting to know you. Otherwise, or you see like some podcasts, like talking to some guru or something about how to love, that sort of stuff, or even like cosmology or that sort of stuff. So I was like, I could do that. So going back earlier to my first interview, I reached out to him. Took a little bit of time because obviously he kept himself busy, but finally got to work, and that was the first one. And All Music Matters, and that it kept coming to me because I've always heard about all music or like music matters, that sort of stuff here too. But I realized in order to expand the audience and still keep true to like the music theme, I realized I had to do all music. So all music genres, everyone matters. And that just for, I threw in that at the end because that's a Pittsburgh slang term. We always say like a sentence, for instance, and then we throw, just throw that in that sort of deal. Or charge in that. How about that? That's a good one. So, and there's this history, and here we are today on StreamYard, not Skype anymore. So,
well, hopefully we have the video from this one. I don't mind doing it again, but hopefully we got the video from this one.
I think we're gonna need a break after this. So yeah. So
yeah.
But I mean, after this, I'm hoping it gets everything here too. But I mean, at this point, we're in a hope and a prayer right now. So, all right. But anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, sounds good. So here's how the last question will go. So, given what's been going on in the world, you see a lot of negativity. That seems to be what the news is like mainly want to talk about these days. Maybe not so much good news or stuff like that. Maybe rarely, but anyway.
Yeah.
What's going on with COVID? Some wars that are going on in this parts of the world, and that people seem to be struggling. Because I know you're talking about philosophy earlier with like the Jordan Peterson, Carl Jung, and all that stuff. So, in order to give those people hope or any sort of meaning in their lives, what sort of message of hope would you give to musicians and people so they can move forward with their lives?
Well, we were all put here for a reason. And you don't have to believe a certain creed, but we all have our purpose. And our purpose, I believe, is to live our best lives that we can and be the best that we can be. And, life is full of ups and downs and, lessons. I don't like to call them failures, but lessons. And, if you connect to something bigger than yourself and find a way to also believe in yourself while doing that, you're on a good path. And when life gets rough, just know that, it's okay. Sometimes it's okay to not be okay. But you got to keep going. You got to pick up yourself and dust off a little bit and find that inner strength. And if that comes from therapy or a higher power or a philosophy, use it. There's nothing wrong with that. There's so many good outlets out there to live positive lives, and to pick yourself up from dark places. I've done it. If we would have had this conversation 15 years ago, I would have been a completely different morose human being. I probably wouldn't have been brave enough to do this, but in the words of that guy from the Adam Sandler movies, you can do it.
I guess so. And spoken like a true prodigy, to quote Quentin Tarantino. So
Yeah.
And actually, I forgot to say this earlier, but I was trying to do a little quick quote from Ed, Ed, and Eddie, where Ed thinks there's a jawbreaker painted on the fence, and unfortunately, Double D gets caught in it. And afterwards, you see the aftermath, and Double D's like, "I've been violated." So those are good times.
Oh yes, times were simple back then.
Much more simpler. So, all right. So Jimmy, we reached the end of my podcast right here. We talked a little. I think we had some breaks in between here, but I think it'll be like an hour and 40-some minutes nonetheless. But before we close out, got any final words? Want to give any shout outs to anybody?
Absolutely. I will give shout outs out all day long. I want to give a shout out to the Norse. You guys were amazing last weekend, and y'all kicked some ass. Hopefully we can play a show again soon. Chunder, I want to give a shout out to. Had a blast playing with you guys. I want to give a shout out to my boy Corey Brown from Nikolai. Thanks for the mentorship that you've given me along this journey, man. Even though they were short conversations, had you not have pulled me aside and talked to me about sound and backing tracks that night, I probably still wouldn't be gigging. So thank you, Corey. Check out Nikolai too; they are freaking amazing. Want to give a shout out to my boy AJ Gacio for doing my production and helping me out with backing tracks as well and producing this EP. Dude is absolutely amazing, and I look forward to working with him down the road. And I want to give a shout out to my boy Grunkle Dave. You might have to get him on the podcast one day when he puts stuff out. I look forward to working with Grunkle Dave and picking his musical genius mind and making my music better. So those are the shout outs I want to give.
Actually, it'd be like the Harry Potter. I don't know if you've seen it, but they take their wands, put it up against their head, and it pulls out their memory too. So I think like that's one way to pull out is a technical genius.
Yeah, good. I want his guitar skills and saxophone skills too, and his bass playing skills. Dude's just great.
That's cool. And I'll ask you for his details later, but I'll see if I can get him on at some point. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. And just real quick for the audience, what social media and streaming platforms are you on so I can check you out and interact?
I am on the Facebook. Is Grizzly Ironside, It's just Grizzly Ironside. Look me up. Follow me or send me a friends request. I don't care if you friends request me. I'll approve it. As long as you're cool, don't be mean. If you're mean, I won't approve it. You can just follow me. I'm on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is Grizzly Ironside Music. I think that's all one word. Yeah, that's all one word. I think I have a X or Twitter or whatever they're calling it, but I'm never on there. And I used to be on TikTok, but I don't get on there anymore too. So if you want to follow me, it's either going to be the Facebook or the Twitter. I have material on streaming. You can listen to my official release material on like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, YouTube. You want to hear the really embarrassing demo stuff, go find me on SoundCloud.
Yeah, it sounds good. I would recommend just get off Twitter because it's gotten too contagious these days, but leave it up to you, Nate.
I mean, there's a reason why I don't get on there. So
that would explain a lot. So
yep,
fair enough. I would say I got off it. Trust me, best decision of my life, or at least one of my best decisions, I should say. So
honestly, if I could promote music without being on social media, I wouldn't be on social media at all.
That too. But then I wouldn't find you on Facebook. That's how I found.
Exactly. So I mean, so there's the good side of Facebook, you know.
Thank the Facebook gods. So there we go.
Yeah.
All right. But nonetheless, got to close out like this. So everyone, my guest today was Jimmy Dunlap, aka Grizzly Ironside. So from Murfreesboro. Is it only a couple hours from Nashville?
About 45 minutes south of Nashville.
Okay. Well, you know where to find this guy there too. So he's out there kicking some ass and everything. He's got some new material coming out, so make sure you keep your eyes open for that here too. Go hit up on all streaming platforms, all social media. Let's go help our brother out and everybody else there too. In Chunder, the Norse, I guess every other artist and everyone else we mentioned in this interview too. Let's go help our brothers and sisters out there too. So, but Jimmy, thank you again so much to do this again here too. So hopefully it's not 3 times as a charm. Hopefully 2 times as a charm right here too. So I'll see what happens. But thank you so much, Jimmy, and thank you for being patient too. So yeah. Stay safe and God bless you, mate.
God bless, brother.
Good dude. Live long and prosper. Rock on.
Live long and prosper, baby. Yeah.
All right. But wait, I need a pose. Stay tuned, y'all.